you're able to work a few hours a day. You pick which days are the heaviest to do that, and then you're gonna have free time in between. Same thing at your work that you're doing now. You've got a lunch hour. Take that lunch hour, find those thrift stores close to your work or whatnot.
What is going on, everybody? Steve Raiken here. Welcome to the Raiken Profit Show, episode number 4 with my good friend Bob Weiss. Title of today's show is How Bob Weiss Beat Stage 4 Cancer and now runs multiple businesses online. And I think you have another business offline as well, right?
Correct.
Cool. So this is going to be an exciting show. And, Bob, we've known each other for a while. We actually just met recently at the Green Room event. He's a Green Room member. He's also part of the Killer Shoe Brands group as well. Very active and just a great guy. And, I was telling him before the show, I just loved his energy. I loved his motivation. And he just really inspired me when we met. And I wanted to bring him on the Raiken Profit Show as the 4th guest because, like I said, I just love his energy, and I think his story is really going to be able to help a lot of people and inspire others. So with that being said, Bob, what's going on? Thanks for coming on.
Hey, Steve, thanks for the invite. I really appreciate it. And it was a real honor and pleasure to be able to meet you out in Austin, you and Steve and Chris. And Eric was part of the Green Room, and then all the other people there. So when you can finally meet somebody that you watch on YouTube, it really makes that connection even better.
Yeah, I agree. I tell people all the time, if you're looking to, change your life, whether it's your health or it's your business or finances, get around like-minded people. It really is worth it to get around people in the flesh. It's kind of like watching like a baseball game on TV versus actually going to the game. You feel the energy, the crowd. It's just a different game. So, thanks for coming on. Let's dive into your story, Bob. So, obviously from the title, people know that you did have stage 4 cancer. You want to talk about how you kind of found out about it all and got through it and beat it and just talk about your story. And we're going to kind of bring things into how you started your businesses and everything too.
Okay. Probably the best way to start that is Thanksgiving of 2008. I have a home watch and concierge business. That's my main business that I do. We were getting a lot of people's houses ready for them to come down to Southwest Florida and enjoy their retirement home. And I felt like I had the flu symptoms, but not sick, but just the achy. I got through, went home, kind of crashed on the couch, rented a bunch of DVDs for the weekend, and felt like crap all weekend. I just got a new phone, couldn't figure out how to answer that phone. That's how I was going in and out of stuff. And so my business partner tried to call a few times on Monday morning, couldn't figure out how to answer the phone. That's how out of it I had gotten.
Oh, wow.
My sister was living with me at the time because she was going to school. And she said, okay, I'll see you after work. I laid on the couch all weekend. So my business partner called my sister and said, what's up with Bob? Because he's not answering his phone. Is he okay? She said, well, no, he laid around all weekend, not doing much at all, just slept on the couch. She said, well, when you get home, we're going to take him to the ER if he's still doing the same thing. So my sister came in 6 o'clock, said, come on, we're going to the ER. And I said, who are we going to visit? And she said, nobody, we're taking you because you're out of it. We don't know what's going on. ER, they checked me out real quick. The doctor couldn't figure out what was going on. He came in the room and said, we don't know what's wrong with him, but does he have a DNR in place? Because we don't think he's going to pull through the night if we don't do some stuff. Partner quickly ran back to the office, typed up some paperwork, brought it back. I signed it. By 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, they figured, we don't know what's going on with him. Midnight, I was out. A week later, I woke up in the intensive care unit. It took them 5 days to diagnose what I had, which was Hodgkin's lymphoma stage 4. It had gone into my bone marrow and my lymph system. And they said if I wasn't as healthy as I was, I wouldn't have made it that far. 2 blood transfusions in the hospital while I was in ICU. Neither one of them kicked in to make my white blood cell count start back up. When I came to, the doctor said, Bob, we don't know. I'm authorized to give you 1 more blood transfusion. It's too late for a bone marrow because we can't find a match this quick. Your system is shutting down. during that week-long process, my kidneys, my liver, my all shut down at different times. They'd have to jumpstart one to get the other one going again. So he told me that he was going to give me one more blood transfusion, and I'm a very positive mindset person. I don't draw on the negative. I try to do on the positive. When he told me, it's up to you to make this happen. Just something happened overnight. The next morning he came in, he said, your white blood cell count has doubled. I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing what you're doing. And I said, well, I'm trying to keep as much negative out as I possibly can, and we're just going to focus on that. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, had to learn to walk again. He said, I said, when can I go home? He said, when you can walk around this floor 3 times without assistance from anybody else, you can use a walker, but nobody else, you can go home. Because my muscles had started to shut down. I was able to finally, after falling a few times, walk around the floor 3 times, was able to get home before Christmas, that was my main goal. I never once thought I was going to die because I wasn't thinking that way. I was thinking, what do I got to do to get out of here? So I was able to get home. When I woke up, the doctor told me that I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I said, well, what is that? He looked at me like I was dumb. He said, well, it's cancer. You have stage 4. If you don't start chemo right away, you'll be dead in 3 weeks. And that was like, huh? And so went home, made some decisions. My cancer was the type that responded quite well to chemo. Had I been able to do a little bit more research, I might have gone a different avenue. But since it responded so well with chemo, we did it. Took 12 treatments, which was 6 months long, 3 additional week-long hospital visits to get through. But I'm still here 9 years later.
Wow. So that's amazing, Bob. Like that's incredible. I can't even imagine what that would be like if that had happened to me. So let's talk about how did you formulate that mindset? Because I think a lot of this can actually translate over to business and other areas of life where, something extremely horrible happens. Like, where did you get this from? Was it ever since a little kid when something goes wrong or you're faced with something, a fear? Like, how do you create that mindset to say, all right, well, I'm going to do something about this versus, just going down and letting it take you out. You know what I mean? Like, that's just amazing how you just like instantly just responded like, okay, like I'm going to do something about this.
Yeah. Most people, when they hear the word stage 4, that used to be a death sentence. Now it's not as much so because there's been some advancements, but it's also a mindset. Your body, builds off of either the positive or the negative. I was always health conscious. Like my doctor said, if you weren't as healthy as you were, you wouldn't have made it. And have you ever watched the movie The Secret?
Yes, I love that the law of the attraction and everything.
I'd watched a lot of that before that anyhow. And a lot of times when I'm doing stuff, I'll be playing positive motivational stuff in the background. So you can just positively, hear all that. But The Secret, every time you watch it, you always get something that you missed from the prior time you watched it. You'll pick something up. And, they're always talking about, the cup half full, not half empty. What do you got to do? Positive things. And if it wasn't for The Secret, and I think having that, I don't think my mindset would have been as strong because you can always sense the power of the positive versus the negative. So, I just drew off of that.
Wow. That's crazy, man. And you've been cancer free for about, what is it? 8 or 9 years now?
Yeah. December 1st this year will be 9 years now. And
wow.
I go to my cancer support group that I started going to during my first chemo session. I drove myself to all my chemo sessions, which my doctor did not like at all. Because one of them, they ended up putting me back in the hospital because my heart rate was so up and my blood pressure was down. And he said, how did you get here today? I said, my truck. He said, yeah, but how did you get here? I said, I drove it. He said, you drove yourself? I said, yes. He said, well, you're going to the ER. And we're going to admit you because your heart rate's out of whack. So that's how headstrong I was. Guys are always a little bit more headstrong, but, I was going to beat this. I was going to make sure I was going to do it on my own and just push. And I'm glad I had all the family support that I had and my business partner, because otherwise I probably wouldn't be here because they helped keep me going where I was. I went all the way down to 126 pounds. So I was normally 165, got all the way down to 126 after my 12th chemo treatment. So a lot of people said I looked like, almost a Walking Dead person, but I motivated myself to keep going. I went to my cancer support group. I still go to that today, almost 9 years later, because I know how important it is, not only for myself, but for other people. Because when people get diagnosed, if you were diagnosed with cancer today, now you're worried about it. You're going to get as much information as you can. If you're not diagnosed with that, you don't even give it a second thought, because why worry about that? So you don't know what you don't know, and then all of a sudden you've got to learn it. So that's when you go into panic mode.
Mm. Wow. Well, I just want to say congratulations on beating it. And it's certainly inspiring. So I appreciate you sharing that story. Let's transition into after the being diagnosed and going through chemo and everything. You already had your watch business previously, correct?
Yeah, the home watch business, we started that in 2006. So we had that for almost 3 years. Yeah.
So how did you come, you're faced with cancer, you beat cancer, you're going through it, you got the chemo. How do you come out of that? And let's talk about kind of like your story with business. How do you get back on the ball again with business, and start to talk about maybe your story in terms of like how you ended up getting into the other businesses that you now run that we were talking about behind the scenes and you could share with the audience?
Okay. The cool thing with our home watch business is a lot of people buy a second or third home here in Paradise, and they leave it unattended for 6 to 9 months out of the year. So we started that in January of 2006. So we had that for almost 3 years. And my business partner, when I was in 6, he's like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have listened to more things that you said about doing certain things, because now half the business, because it's her and I, is in the hospital laid up for 6 months, and she's having to run the business. If I had to get sick at the right time of the year, it was the right time of the year, because most of our clients were back when I was going through my chemo. So it wasn't as hard work to worry about as it was after that. So we were able to keep that going. We had a few other people that stepped in to help run that business, help her get through that. And a lot of our clients were very supportive, because you kind of connect with them on a personal level, but also on the business level. So they were very supportive there. They didn't call on me to do a lot of stuff during that first year, because they knew I was pretty much out of it. So we were able to build that back up. She started a training company in 2008, got more people involved in home watch. So we have a lot more people that you can draw off of to help run those businesses.
What is home watch? Because I'm going to be honest with you, when you were saying home watch, like I'm thinking like what is this home watch? I'm going to be honest. I don't know if the viewer caught on too. When I was saying home watch, like what is this business?
Home watch, a lot of people haven't heard of it, but when you're in a vacation area or a paradise situation, or like Arizona with golf, Myrtle Beach, Florida, people buy a second or third home to vacation with, or it is an investment property. So when they retire, they're not there most of the year. So they got to have somebody watch their home to keep an eye on it, because things are going to happen. In Florida, ACs work and they don't. So when the AC doesn't work, you live in a tropical setting, you're going to have mold and mildew start in that house right away if you don't have somebody caring for your house, watching it to keep you abreast of what's going on. So we have about 75 accounts that we keep an eye on, of those homes that we watch and report back to our clients either weekly or every other week.
So how does that actually work? Like, what are you actually doing for them?
I go into the house, I run the water, you're flushing and brushing every toilet, making sure all the plumbing is good, running water in the drain lines, checking the air conditioners, because like I said, they work and they don't. And when they don't, you have a humidity bloom or mold and mildew start into a house, that can cost thousands of dollars of damage. You check the security, windows, doors, all that. Some people leave their cars behind, and you leave a high-end car behind, it can't sit there for 6 months. You got to get it out and drive it, exercise it, make sure the tires are good, the batteries and all that other good stuff. We get service done for their cars while they're gone. So when they come back, it's like they never left. And the refrigerator can be stocked with groceries. The car's washed, it's ready to go. The shutters are up. It's like they never left. Then they can leave, and we shut it up and we do it all over again.
Dude, that is the coolest. That is like the coolest business. It's funny, when I brought you on, like, I'm going to let everybody know, I had no idea about this business. Like, honestly, the podcast and the show is going to be more towards like eBay and Amazon, but that was very interesting. It's amazing, Bob, like the older I get, the more I realize there are so many opportunities for business. Like if you think of like a challenge that you're dealing with or a problem, that could be a business right there. How did you come about that business?
My business partner and I worked for a golf community that builds a lot of high-end golf courses and communities there. and I'm very handyman stuff. She worked at a real estate rental office that had a few homes that were annual rentals or seasonal rentals. And that business shut down. So they needed a place for those few accounts to go to. And the owner said, I know you and Bob are talking about starting a home watch business. Why don't you just call these clients and see if they want to come on board? So we did that. And within a year, we built a pretty good book of business because we got out there and marketed. And other people talked about, oh, hey, you need to have these guys keep an eye on your house while they're gone. They can keep contact with you and let you know what's going on. If something breaks, they'll get it fixed. They'll get it scheduled. It's good to go. So we started that. And before you know it, we got too many referrals coming in because we didn't want to hire employees because, you want to work for yourself. That's when the training company came in because we needed some place to send our referrals to. Best of both worlds. Wow, and then I was able to do eBay right in with that because you have free time during the day that you can go out and do some sourcing.
So let's talk about that. How did you get started with eBay, and like how did that come about? What types of items were you going after? Where were you getting it, and how did you balance both of those businesses?
Well, the good thing is our business, we haven't taken on new accounts because we don't need to. We got our core book of business. So you're able to work a few hours a day. You pick which days are the heaviest to do that, and then you're gonna have free time in between. Same thing at your work that you're doing now. You've got a lunch hour. Take that lunch hour, find those thrift stores close to your work or whatnot. So I'm around town, all over town, and in Collier County, there's like 30 thrift stores. In Lee County, which I don't go to very often, there's probably another 50 up there. So you just figure out which thrift stores are going to be in that part of town that you're in, figure out their hours, and you just pop in there for 30 minutes to an hour. Then you figure out which items you want to specialize in, which is, clothes, and then shoes, of course. And then I'm doing some higher specialty items. It just depends on what's behind the counter that they keep locked up. And sometimes I'll buy that stuff because, you spend $30, you might turn that into a couple $100.
That's cool. So you've got the home watch business, you've got the eBay business. Are you selling on Amazon as well?
I'm doing some on Amazon because I'm doing some books. I've sent in quite a few books on that. But then I'm also doing a little bit of retail arbitrage as I can. But some of our thrift stores get a lot of new items in because people just get rid of it out of the house. And, you have that app with you and you scan it and you say, oh, I can sell that. I'll just send that in to Amazon because you can make a lot more money on Amazon than you can eBay. But you just got a few more restrictions you got to deal with.
So let me ask you, for the people out there who are watching, who I can imagine a lot of people probably have maybe a full-time job or a part-time job, and they're looking to get into eBay. Maybe they want to do some thrifting, some clothing, some shoes, electronics. There's tons of different items, or maybe they want to sell books on Amazon. What's your advice for the people who want to get started, but they already have a part-time or a full-time job? What's your story in terms of like how you broke into things or how somebody else could break into it and just get started?
Well, I had a good friend contact me last December. She said, Bob, I want to get into Amazon and eBay because I want to make some extra money because I'm tired of the rat race of, the 9-to-5 job. So, we got some information, went to a class. I can't remember the name of it. And then I started doing YouTube and I found you and Chris in the green room. And by educating yourself, you can learn a lot more that way than a traditional education. So I thought, you know what, if you just take an hour a day and listen to YouTube videos, figure out which niche you want to get into by what you're listening to, and figure out, I spent $5 or $10 on a pair of shoes or a pair of jeans and I can sell it for anywhere from $30 to $100 or $200. You do the math. You're working at a day job at, let's just say $10 an hour, and you're putting 8 hours in a day. That's $80. You go buy a pair of shoes for $10, you sell it for 120. You just made more on a pair of shoes than you made for all day at work. So you got to figure out, do I have an extra hour that I can stop watching TV and learn this business and get out there and do it? And that's the mindset.
There's so many resources out there. If anybody's watching this right now or listening on the podcast and you're thinking to yourself, like, what are these guys talking about? Going to thrift stores and books and shoes and clothing. Like, there's no money to be made there. There is so much money to be made. And what the point I'm trying to get at is just go on YouTube and type selling on eBay or making money from thrift stores or selling books on Amazon. We live in a world where there is unlimited amounts of information. And the cool thing about YouTube is you can see, how many likes a video has, how many dislikes. You can see the comments, like you can see how many subscribers the person has. Like if you find someone on YouTube with, 20,000, 40,000 subscribers and they have a lot of likes versus dislikes, a lot of positive comments, there's a community built around it. You can really you can really find out quite quickly if you could trust somebody or not. And, there's so much information out there. Just get started, just start applying things. And that's one thing I've noticed about you, is you learn something and you just start taking action. Now, is that something that you've always been doing your whole life? Like you learn something and then you apply it and try it out, or do you just go full blast into it? Or is it kind of like an experiment to see if it works or not? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the saying is, you learn from experience. The trouble with learning from experience is the test comes first. So you're probably going to fail, but you got to get back up. And the cool thing with YouTube, like you've got all these thousands of followers. They're following you because you've learned from experience. You're sharing what you've learned, what you've failed at. So why not learn from somebody that's already failed in some areas so you don't have to go through that part and learn the good things? You got you got Eric, you got Chris, you got Luke, you've got Prof Sales. All these guys have a certain niche that they go after. If you follow them, you're going to learn what not to do, but what to do. So I'm always the guy that wants to, you get the mindset that I'm going to figure this out. But if I've got free education, why not use it? Then you join a group like the Green Room that you have to pay to be part of, which is good because now you're with those like-minded guys that are sharing even better ideas in that private group that you can learn from even more. So you got to self-educate yourself.
I agree. Let me ask you, what's working really, really well for you right now in terms of your eBay and Amazon business? Do you have any strategies or any tips for people? Because I always say this all the time, like things are changing rapidly, like on all platforms with the internet, and there's so many people learning and applying things. I mean, especially on Amazon, things are changing so fast, but even eBay as well. Is there anything in terms of sourcing or thrifting or certain products you're selling, like anything that's working really, really well with you in terms of making money on eBay and Amazon that you can share with the people listening?
Well, you can't be afraid to go to the thrift stores. And sometimes you got to go every day because people donate every day, or at night, they're going to drop off a lot of stuff. You want to try to build rapport with some of the managers. It's tough when the manager leaves. But I have a couple thrift stores that I go to. It's a private type thrift store, not Goodwill. I go to a lot of Goodwills, but there's a lot of other thrift stores, and they know you're a thrifter. And the cool thing is, this one lady, I go in and she's like, well, I know you do the clothes and the shoes and a few of these. Somebody else does this. So it's cool that I have all these different retail, thrifters coming in. So when they learn your niche, they kind of hold things for you. So it's kind of cool too.
So true.
Shoes, in my opinion, are probably the easiest thing to learn, clean up, and list and sell for the highest profit margin out there. Based on where you're located. Some people say, yeah, but I don't have any thrift stores close to me. Well, do a day trip. You're going to have to do a day trip and plan that out and find 3 or 4 thrift stores you can go to. And one of the main things I do on eBay too is because, everybody talks about the algorithm of if you're not listing daily, it's going to affect you. So fine, pick one day, list 8 or 10 or 20 items, but do scheduled listings. It costs you 10 cents to do a schedule.
I was going to ask you if it costs money, because I made a video about that today, and I had mentioned exactly what you said, and I was like, I don't know how much it costs. It's 10 cents?
10 cents to do a scheduled listing. And if I scheduled 30 listings, that's $3. That's less than a cup of coffee.
And if you're selling shoes, we both know you can easily flip a pair of Johnson & Murphy's, Allen Edmonds, or whatever brand for $50, $80, $100. So it makes it worth it. Hey, I want to say, Bob, I think that tip that you shared about like building rapport with the managers, that is key. Like that is huge. It happened to me. This was probably, I don't know, a couple months ago. I went into a local Goodwill, and it's like, I'm blessed to have a Goodwill that's the highest grossing Goodwill, like in all of Connecticut. I live in Connecticut, and it's like 5 minutes away from me. So I always find a bunch of deals, but he knows that I buy books, and my mom, I taught my mom how to buy books. She's been selling books for 4 years. She's getting ready to retire and supplement her income with it and everything. But he's like, hey, Steve, what's going on? I'm like, hey, what's up, man? He's like, hey, we got all these books, man. You want me to bring them out for you? And I'm like, sure. And, you know, I didn't make a ton of money. I probably made, I don't know, 100, 150 bucks, but man, like I just made $150 because of a previous relationship I built by just saying hello and asking how you are. Like, you don't have to bring in pizza and cake for them, but you know, if you're a human, like how do you build a rapport with people at the thrift stores and stuff? So they, you know, because people are listening like, that sounds great, but how do I get a manager to know me and like me and recognize what niche that I'm into? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've got a couple different thrift stores here. One of them is, it's built around helping children in a community that's outside of Naples here. And then another one that does a lot of stuff for homeless families. And they're always, they're 501c, nonprofit. They're trying to raise extra money. So the one lady says, if you ever find something in my thrift store and you sell it for a really good high profit margin, you can always donate a little extra back to the store. So, she kind of plants that seed anyhow. So the last time I did there, I think I spent like $160 on about, I think probably all the stuff I got is probably worth about $1,500 for like $160. So I told her, I'll just round it up to $200. She's like, really? I said, yeah. So doing little things like that, that's going to help their mission. They're going to remember that. Even if it's only $5 or $10, round it up a little bit, because your Goodwill probably does the same thing here. If it's $13.58, can we round that up to 14 today? Always round up. It's not going to cost you anything but build rapport, because every time they see you, they remember, oh, you're that guy that always rounds up, or you'll do that little extra thing. So if you can give a little, you're going to get a little.
That's cool. That's so true right there. And really try these methods, because you might build rapport and build a friendship with somebody and you might not get lucky. Like they might not hook you up, but either way, like you get to walk into an environment where people say, hey, what's up, Bob? Hey, what's up, Steve? And like, it's cool to be able to go and like thrift and like, them. And it's just like, you're having fun, but you're also making their day. But the last point is there will come a day where it will repay you. Like I'm just telling you, like right now, like there's going to come a day where they're like, hey, we have these video games. Like, do you want to check them out? Like it's going to happen. So that's a really, really good tip. I want to ask you a little bit about like routines and habits and rituals, because I love asking people who are successful kind of maybe what's one or two routines or habits or rituals that you practice every day that you feel has really helped you as an entrepreneur in business. Is there anything that stands out?
Well, before we talk, I told you I was in network marketing. So there's a lot of things in network marketing that you learn because it's all positive. You surround yourself with 5 like-minded people. That's a huge thing there. But if you get up at 6:30, get up at 6. Get up at 6 and go for a walk. Also, read 10 or 15 minutes every morning. If you do those 2 things alone, you're going to start your day off with better energy and a positive mindset. And when you have that positive mindset, if you stub your toe, it's not going to matter. But if you don't have that positive mindset and you stub your toe, you're going to be upset and you started your day off bad. You're going to get in the car. You're going to run a red light. Who knows what's going to happen? But if you have that positive thing going already, you're only thinking positive. Those are the 2 main things I start my day off with.
I think a morning routine is so important. Like getting moving and getting your mind, you're getting your physical body going, right? So you're getting the blood flowing. And then when you're reading, you're activating your mind. So that's really big.
Good idea. You pick up that one good idea from that 10 minutes of reading. You're like, oh my gosh, I need to make that change. And you do, and you go out and you implement it that day. You're like, oh wow, I need to read more. So simple little things.
Yeah, the worst thing you can do, and I used to do this my whole life before I started studying Tony Robbins and, Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar and Les Brown and, reading all these self-development books. I never realized my whole life, I'm 30 years old now, but up until probably until I was like 24, 25, I would get up and just immediately start reacting to the world, checking social media, checking email, returning calls, just reacting to the world. And, when you're running a business, the main thing that you need to focus on is your mind. Like if you can get control of your mind, you could change everything. And I'm glad you brought that up. That was really, really cool right there. Let me ask you, what's one of the biggest mistakes that you've made, whether it was your home watch business or reselling on eBay or Amazon? One of the biggest mistakes that you've made that if you could go back in time, you maybe wish that you could have done it over again, or something that kind of held you back? Is there anything that you can share with the people that are watching? It could be, a motivational thing. It could be a self-development thing, health. It could be maybe a actual hands-on tactic. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Mm, well, like with eBay, a lot of people, they say, when should I get a store? Now, I would say now. Don't wait a month or 2 or 3 months or 4 months and get a few sales. Get a store now because of the savings you're going to be able to get on you're going to get some benefits on your shipping. You get shipping supplies based on which store level you get every quarter, and you have the ability to run sales. When you can run sales, that turns into dollars. When you don't have a store, you can't do that. So I think that would be one thing I would have started out with right away instead of waiting 4 months.
Yeah. I have a good friend who I helped get started. He lives locally on eBay, and he was probably running his eBay business for about a year. And he used to have these slow periods of time where things just weren't selling. And it's kind of normal for eBay. Like it's just always seems to be up and down. It's just how it works.
Mhm.
But one thing that I've done to combat that is running sales. Well, anyways, I kept telling him to get a store. And he's like, no, I don't want to pay what is it, like $15 or $20 a month. He's like, I don't want to pay that. It's not worth it. But it is worth it. Like it
Mhm.
really, really, really does help to generate sales. Now, what percentage do you usually run in your eBay store? Like, do you run? I know some people, like my good buddy Ronnie Hart. When I talked to him last year, he was like, I think he had like a consistent 5 to 10% sale running at all times. And then I believe sometimes he would increase it or decrease it based on the time of the year. Like, do you have any tactics or strategies for running sales?
I always, when I look at my pricing, when I start on my shoes or my clothes, like Robert Graham shirts, if I'm going to list a Robert Graham shirt, I'm not going to put it on there for $50. I'm going to put it on there for $90 because when you look at that shirt, it's a $200 or $300 shirt. So if I can put it there for $90, and if I can put it on sale for 15% off, I'm still going to walk away with $75. If I had that at $50 at a 15% sale, now I've cut that in half. So I always price on the higher end, not crazy high end, but I always look at the top 20% of the pricing. Do that. I make sure my products are quality, and then I can do a sale anywhere from 5 to 25% based on what I need to move. Usually average is 10 to 15%, and those usually move some stuff. Like the other day, I had a sale on my shoes for 15%. Guy reaches out, I gave him the information. He didn't buy them till today, and my sale went off yesterday. So you could have saved $25 if you had pulled the trigger on Sunday. But no, I got an email right before this, and I'm like, oh, good, he paid full price. Okay, no problem.
eBay or Amazon, if someone was to get started, what would you recommend?
eBay.
Why?
Less restrictions. It's a good place to learn and not lose your shirt. Amazon, I just get paranoid because of the restrictions, and I don't want to take a chance of screwing up my account because then you could be shut down for a month or 6 months or whatever. I think if you learn eBay and start to educate yourself on Amazon, then that's the smartest. That's how I went because I didn't want to take a chance of messing up. I bought things on eBay for years. My account was in 1999 when I opened my eBay account. I didn't get serious about it until this last year. So now I'm selling.
To touch on that, I actually just got an email from my my bookkeeper today, and he sent me this email, and he's like, "What do you think of this?" And there was an article about Amazon and the FBA warehouses, fulfillment by Amazon. For people who are watching, Amazon, selling on Amazon, you could actually send your products off to their warehouses, and they'll store them and then pick them, pack them, ship them, fulfill them for you. But there's so many warehouses. Like, how many warehouses are there now that Amazon has? Isn't there like 20 or 30 of them now, like in all different states, something like that?
No, I think there's closer to like 100. Almost what they do is they try to get one in every state for tax purposes. Yeah,
dude, they have blown up these warehouses. So the difference between eBay and Amazon, if you sell FBA, you can ship all your products out to them. and you get this like really great discounted rate, right? It's Amazon FBA, fulfillment by Amazon, and then they pick a package, ship it. But what's happening is there's these sales tax nexus issues that are occurring because there's just a lot of black and white, like gray areas in terms of like sales tax and laws, and things are changing right now. I think eventually you're going to probably be required to collect tax in all these different states, but most people aren't right now. But with Amazon, that is another trickier part of the equation. You know, there are services out there like TaxJar who help to provide sellers with an easier way to be able to collect tax. But that is another thing too. Like if you get into Amazon, especially now, or you're watching this a year or two later, there's a good chance you might have to set up collecting sales tax in multiple states, which is kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah. And then that much more to how many more restrictions do I got to make sure I do it right? Otherwise I could get shut down. So I like eBay.
So what are your plans, man, for the future? You've got your multiple businesses. What are your plans, man, in terms of like the various income streams that you have, in terms of the time that you want to put into each, that you want to allocate? Which ones do you want to grow? And kind of talk about how you feel the long-term sustainability is of these various platforms, and just kind of like your game plan, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. I mean, I'm more of like a shorter term thinker. People, I hate the question, like, where do you plan to be in 5 years? Because it's just like things are moving so quick. I just have a hard time answering that. But what's kind of your game plan over the next year or so with these different income streams?
Yeah, I think when you're younger, you have a harder time figuring out what's going to happen in 5 years. For when you're older, like I am, like 5 years, okay, I'm probably still going to be in Naples because I love living in paradise. I don't really have to plan a vacation because I live in a nice place. I work my business. I'm working for myself, not working for a 9-to-5 job, which is kind of cool. If I need time off, my business partner can step in and cover, or vice versa. It's nice there. eBay, I would like to build it up to where I can have maybe an employee or two part-time to help me with listing and whatnot, so I can go out and source. It's hard, in my opinion, to be able to teach somebody to source the right way, because once you teach them to source that way, what are they going to do?
They're going to source for themselves.
That's it. So, they might keep the cream of the crop what they went out and sourced, because you can't keep up with that. So I've learned that from business that, when you hire employees, you're hiring an employee that's working for you. But do you want to work for somebody else? Not necessarily. That's why you started your own business. So I always keep that in my mind. But if I can get somebody that can help me list and do stuff like that, gives me more time to source, that would be ideal. So in 5 years, I'd like to be able to be doing very, very well with eBay. My home watch business is, it's running very well. The training company that my business partner is doing is, that's growing. So, home watch is not going anywhere. It's going to get better and better all the time. So that's kind of my bread and butter, and my eBay is on top.
Hey, let me ask you a question. I probably should have asked it earlier, but what advice would you have for somebody out there who maybe recently they were diagnosed with cancer, or possibly they're going through a really hard, a difficult time in their life with their health or issues like that? What advice would you give to somebody who's maybe they're dealing with that, and maybe they're still, they need to like make enough money to pay their bills and different things like that? Or, I mean, what advice would you have, considering that you've gone through that, you beat stage 4? Any advice that you can give?
I mean, I would definitely find a good support group, because like our support group, a lot of people think a support group talks about death and dying. Ours doesn't. We find out what that person needs and we build it around there. So find a good support group in your area for whatever illness that you have, whether it be Parkinson's or cancer or diabetes or whatnot. Get active. There's I don't know if you've heard of the Blue Zones Project, but it's about healthier living and doing things in moderation the right way. There's a Healthy 9 that they do. Get involved in stuff like that, because when you start eating healthy, as you know, you start feeling better. When you start losing weight, you start feeling better. Cancer wasn't started because of something weird. It was because of your environment and what you were doing that caused it. So you got to stop the cause that caused it. You can't just fix it with a Band-Aid. So you got to look back and see what's going on. There's a video series out there that I love that we watch in our group. It's called The Truth About Cancer. I would say Google that, and you're going to be surprised the information that you can learn about making healthier choices that are going to do better for you in the long run.
So do you think most people, they get sick because they're not eating healthy? They are maybe not getting enough rest, working too much, stress. Are those the main things, like creating more? Because I heard you say the word balance. Is it about creating more of a balance in your life and having a healthier lifestyle?
Correct. I mean, stress is the number one killer, whether it be related to heart or cancer or any disease out there. Stress compromises your immune system. When you have a compromised immune system, your body can't fight things off. Start eating more alkalizing fruits and vegetables than acidic. You don't realize the difference between that, but acid is bad, alkaline is good. So Google alkaline versus acidic fruits and vegetables and start implementing those in your diet daily. You're going to be surprised how you start to feel. When you have low nutrition in your body senses that. It can't do what it needs to do because it doesn't have all the stuff it needs to do. So yeah, change a few things like that. You're going to be surprised how you're going to start to feel. And you can turn a lot of things around that way.
What's the difference, in your opinion, working hard versus being stressed? How do you draw the line?
You know, you got to work smarter, not harder. That's the key. You know, when you're working so hard that you're stressed, you got to make some changes, because if you don't, your body's going to shut down and you're going to have to make changes that you didn't want to even plan on making. I'm very fortunate that I'm still here being able to do what I do, but stress was probably the biggest thing because we were pushing so hard. And, you know, my nutrition was pretty good, but, you know, stress is the number one killer out there when you really look at it. Over 70% of the US population is on at least one or several medications, not supplements, medications. That's not a good number. We need to get those medications down to way down.
What are some of the tall tale signs that somebody who's running an eBay business or an Amazon business or just in life that they're stressed? Because it's one of those words where you hear like, okay, I'm stressed. And like, this is something I'm curious, because like I've been working on this as well, because in my business, and I'm sure in your business as well, like you can work around the clock. There's always something for me to do, especially being a creative and having a YouTube channel and marketing and eBay and reselling. Like I could just keep going and going and going. What is actual stress? Because sometimes I'm working really, really hard and I'm like, and I'm even working smart, but I'm like, am I stressed? Like, what is stress?
Well, you know, you have good stress and bad stress, but I mean, think about this. When you screw up on a shipment, is that stressful?
Yeah, because you start swearing and pounding things.
And then you've put too much there. Like, oh, how did I mix that one little thing up? You know, if I forget, like with my home watch business, if I got to meet a vendor and I didn't schedule that on my calendar, now he calls me and says, oh, I'll be there in 15 minutes and I'm 30 minutes away. Now I'm like, oh, no, now I got to reschedule my day. So that adds more stress on top. So that bad stress. And then, like you said, you start cussing and swearing because you messed up a shipment. What does that do for the rest of your day? Because you're going to be thinking about that. Oh, how's that going to get? That's going to give me negative feedback. If I get negative feedback, what's that going to do for this? So it's a compound effect. So you got to do things smarter, not harder.
Do you have any tips for how to manage your day to reduce stress? Any softwares you use or tools or any techniques to really make sure that you're in control of your day? Because I do find that like when I start to lose control, that's when I get stressed. You know, I forgot to, you know, schedule something in, or this pops up, or I get that phone call, or I missed the doctor's appointment. Like, do you have any strategies for how people can be better organized to get more? Because I feel like when you're in control, you're less stressed. I don't know. That's just something I feel.
Correct. I mean, probably the number one app I use is my Google Calendar, because I have an Android phone. And if somebody calls me or I got to do something, I'm going to stop and I'm going to put it on the calendar right away. And I don't just put it for that day. I put like 3 or 4 reminders based on how important it is. And when that reminder kicks on, I'm like, oh yeah, I can't schedule anything around that, because if I do, I'm going to forget this. So I think that's probably my number one thing that I use, because if I didn't have that, my day would just be gone. And I always schedule, when I put that in there, 12 hours. for a reminder, because that's going to pop in at like 8 o'clock at night for the next morning. So I already know the next morning what I got to deal with. So when I wake up, I'm not stressed thinking, oh, I've got to deal with that tomorrow. I'll deal with it tomorrow because I just got my reminder.
Interesting. One more thing too. I know I'm like diving really deep into the whole stress thing, but it really just like a light bulb went off like, wow, like this is so important. A lot of people complain. Let's talk about eBay. A lot of people get stressed out about listing on eBay. Like I always hear people saying, I hate listing on eBay. It's no fun. And I've said this before too. I'm guilty of it. How does somebody take action in their business? Because let's just be real. There's certain things and processes that you have to take action on that will equate to the results. How does somebody take action in a business and not get stressed when they really don't enjoy it? Is that a sign that maybe you shouldn't be in that business, or in business in general, are there going to just be certain things that you don't like? Do you start delegating, outsourcing? Like, what are your thoughts on all that?
Well, I would be, if I have too much dislike in that, I need to change something, whether it's eBay to Amazon or whatever. But if it's something eBay that I'm not enjoying, find something that I enjoy on Amazon, like shoes. It's kind of fun because I don't mind finding a nice pair of shoes that's my size, because I can get them for $5 or $10. I clean them up. I got a nice pair of shoes. I wear them while I can sell it. So if you're stressed on that, but a lot of people I think say, I don't have time to list like I need to. If you're working a 40 or 50 or 60-hour a week job, you've got the weekend. Take 3 or 4 hours, and like we just talked about, scheduled listing, list a bunch, schedule it out so it's popping in place. And to me, that takes a lot of stress off, because now you're not worried about having to list every day. List once a week that lists for you every day.
And you're saving time by batching as well.
Correct. Because I don't do one pair of shoes at a time. I do 10 pairs or 20 pairs of shoes. I clean them all up, browns, blacks, whatever I got to do. I have them there. I take all the photographs of all of them. I pop the card out, put it in the computer, and I just bring them up. I've already got a template made where I've already found that pair of shoes. So I just pull that up, change the draft, do that. Another thing with people stress out, I think, over shipping. I always put 2 choices of shipping. If you just put one, you're not going to make as many sales. I found when, I think Tino put this on one of his videos way back when, do parcel, USPS first, then do priority mail second. And if you have a store, your priority mail usually is as cheap, if not cheaper on your end, to send it out priority mail, and you're saving money there. Plus you're getting the product into somebody else's hands quicker. And most of my responses back say very fast shipping. That's because I sent it priority mail, and it made them feel better because they paid for Parcel Select to go to Oregon, and they got it in 3 days instead of 7. So
under
little
promise.
things like that take a lot of stress off.
Yep. Under promise, over deliver.
Correct.
Cool, man. Well, wow. So much great knowledge, man, you were dropping there. So hopefully everybody's been enjoying it. I want to ask you one last final question on the Raiken Profit Show. If you had one last piece of advice for the viewers watching, in context to your story, you beat the cancer, you went through it, you run multiple businesses now. What advice would you give to people who maybe are going through something similar or maybe they're just running multiple businesses? Any piece of advice that you would like to put out there for the people watching?
Make one simple change a week, not a day, just one simple change a week. If you do that, that's 52 changes in a year. Within a calendar year, you're going to be surprised the difference that'll happen. But if you start eating healthier, or I know you juice, pick next week and say, you know what, I'm going to start juicing at least once a week, and then before you know it, a couple times a week, or once every day. I try to do a juice every day, fresh juice, because I feel the energy. But if you'll make one wise choice a week and stick to it, you're going to be surprised what'll start to happen.
Wow. I wasn't expecting to say that, man. That's like some of the best advice I've ever heard right there. So, cool. Thanks. Appreciate it, Bob. Bob Weiss. Is there anywhere people can go to follow you, or your support group, or anything that you want to put out there to the people watching?
Well, I mean, they can just Google my name on Facebook. Just put Bob Weiss in there. I should pop right up there. If you're going to send me a private message or a friend request, at least send a private message saying who you are and why you're sending it. Because I get a lot of friend requests, and if it doesn't make sense with what I'm doing, I'm probably not going to accept it. That's going to be the easy way there.
Yeah, you know how Facebook is. There's all those fake profiles out there now. So if it looks too good to be true, it probably. Well, hey, thanks, Bob, for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. I'll link up your Facebook and information if you'd like me to down below if anyone wants to reach out or just connect. But I just want to thank you, man, for coming on, and I really, really appreciate you. And man, keep doing your thing, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, I appreciate you having me on there. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Bob.